everyone, I am Annika and welcome to my channel where I share lots of home improvement and woodworking projects and I break them all down so you can make them too. Today I'm partnering with my friends at Scotch Painter's Tape to give this wall a little makeover. We're gonna create a fun accent wall. It's something I have never done before, so I'm really excited to see how it turns out. I have my paint coats on, so let's go. Step one is, of course, the preparation. I took off the outlet covers and I taped the outlets off using the Scotch Blue Original Painter's Tape. I taped off the door frame and I taped off the baseboards and the floors. For the baseboard and floors, I'm actually using the 3M Hand Masker M3000 dispenser. It basically applies the painter's tape to the advanced masking film in one continuous motion, and it saves a lot of time, and now I can protect the baseboards as well as the adjoining floor. My walls were beige, so I decided to give it a fresh coat of nice, crisp, clean white before starting to work on the accent wall. It's time to put the design on the wall. I am using a laser level to draw the lines, but you could totally use a chalk line or just a plain old ruler and pencil and measure and draw the lines. I think picking the design was probably the hardest part of this project. I had drawn and redrawn this design on paper a bunch of times before I started to transfer it to the wall, but even as I was transferring it, I was making changes as I went along. So I've got the pattern all drawn out. It's a little bit of a mess because as I was drawing it, I was changing the width of the lines. But now I think I'm happy with what I have and I'm gonna go ahead and start taping it up and then we'll get to the cement. Since my walls are freshly painted, I am using the Scotch Delicate Surface Painter's Tape. This is specifically meant for freshly painted surfaces and has a very gentle adhesive. Notice how I guide the tape into place and then come back and smooth it out. And then I come back and burnish the edges to seal them. So basically, to start with, I taped off all the alternate stripes that were going to be the darker gray. And I also went ahead and taped the ceiling and the adjoining wall to make sure that I don't get any cement on them. So for the cement, I'm using the Feather Finish Underlayment Patch and Skim coat. This is basically gray cement. So I am going to be using this and mixing in some white concrete pigment to create the variations between gray and white stripes. It does have a 15-minute work time, so I can only mix small batches. So I'm hoping I can mix one batch for each of the stripes. I also have a trowel to apply the skim coats, and I have a sponge right here so I can smooth out the cement while I'm working it so I can get a nice smooth finish to start off with. And I'm hoping I don't have to sand it for a smooth finish. A respirator is a must when working with cement. I started with water in the container and poured my cement into it, but as you can see, there was still quite a bit of cement dust floating around. I was going for a frosting kind of consistency, so I just kind of added water and more cement and more water until I reached the consistency that I was looking for. I was hoping that this would be easy enough to spread out and evenly coat the wall. Okay, let's put it on the wall now. Can you tell I'm nervous? I started by applying the cement onto the wall with the putty knife. And then I found that the trowel was the best way to really spread it out and get an even finish. It isn't so bad. I am able to smooth it out quite a bit. I want to be careful not to put my trowel on the other side of the tape, but it seems to be working out. I'm trying to make it really thin, but not so thin that you can see the wall underneath it. But yeah, let's see how this is going to work out. It's going to be a big mistake or it's going to be super cool. Let's hope it's the second. I think I need more. And I think it's easier to apply with this, but then smooth it out with the trowel. Like that. And that's how I went ahead and applied the cement. Now, I realized that I was either working really slow or the cement was drying fast, or it was both, because halfway through the second area, the cement started to get pretty hard to spread. It was starting to be really crumbly and I just wasn't able to spread it out smoothly. So I had to leave one of those stripes halfway through to mix a new batch. So I had a meeting and I had to pick up the kids, so I had to leave and I couldn't complete the stripe. But when I came back, it has started to dry out and it's starting to look so cool. So I'm really excited to get this finished and get this done. So I've got 2 containers that I'm alternating between. So once I'm done with that, I just let that dry out in like an hour, so it dries up enough while I work on the other stripes. But now this has dried up enough that it doesn't really stick to the plastic. So I'm able to like sort of get it off the plastic and then just dump it out. See, it's all empty, and now I can just like scrape off anything that is stuck to the sides and sort of clean it out, and then I can use this to mix my next batch. So I sort of keep alternating between the 2 containers. This time I mixed it a lot thinner than last time. I mean, it was still thick enough that it would make a coating on the wall, but it would hopefully take a lot longer to dry. And then I went ahead and filled in the areas in the first stripe that were left over, and then it was enough for me to also fill in the next stripe. So I was hoping that this didn't happen, but it did. All of these patches that I came back with a second batch and sort of patched it up are all drying a different color. And I am just gonna have to redo this entire section. I'm gonna have to recoat this whole thing. So there's a part that's still wet, so I'm just gonna let that dry and come back and completely redo this. But in the meantime, I couldn't stop myself from removing the tape from the areas that were already completed. And I was so happy to see all of these sharp lines. And then I went ahead and recoated the stripe with a new batch of cement. That's a great lesson learned, that basically the color of the cement depends on how much water you mix into it. And I was definitely not measuring while mixing, so there was no way I would be able to reproduce a given batch. Which is okay, because then I just made sure to mix enough for each stripe. It was a bit of a fine balance, because you don't want to waste too much cement, but you also don't want to have not enough for that stripe. Okay, day 3. This has dried overnight and it has turned out to be exactly what I was going for. I love the texture and the color variations. And now it's time to tape it back up and start working on the rest of the stripes. Now, since I'm taping concrete, I am using Scotch Rough Surface Painter's Tape. It is meant specifically for rough surfaces such as concrete, brick, stucco, rough wood. So this is the perfect application for it. And in the other areas where I was taping the wall, I continued to use the Scotch Delicate Surface Painter's Tape. And now for the white cement, or rather the light gray cement. I mixed the white concrete pigment in the water and then added the cement mix into it. I basically used trial and error and played around with it until I had a color that I was happy with. Of course, I was mixing enough in each batch to coat one stripe so that I got different variations in color for each of the different stripes. And then I just went ahead and applied it to each of the stripes like all the other stripes before it. To be honest, I was a little nervous about how the colors would turn out because I knew that the color would not look like it did when it was wet, but I really didn't want it to turn completely white when it dried. And then I went ahead and took down the tape between the two cement lines, and I have to admit I was so excited to see that sharp line between the two cement colors. Finally, it was time to tape off the lines for the gold stripes. Wherever there was cement, I used the Scotch rough surface tape, and wherever I was taping the wall, I used Scotch delicate surface tape. When I started using the gold paint, which is actually meant for walls, I was pretty surprised with the poor coverage, and I realized that that's probably because my base coat is an eggshell finish. So I went ahead and applied primer to each of those stripes, and then I came back with the gold paint, which now gave me a lot better coverage. I think the gold is starting to look good. It's going to take probably 2 more coats for it to really look nice and rich and a solid gold. My challenge right now is to have patience, to wait for this guy to dry so I can tape it and paint this gold strip, and for the gold paint to dry so I can do the multiple coats, and then we'll be done. But I just have to wait for things to dry. All right, here's the moment of truth. I am so blown away with how gorgeous this gold looks next to the concrete. Honestly, I am really stoked with how beautiful this wall turned out. It was this crazy idea, and I was actually a little nervous about it, but this turned out to be even better than what I had imagined in my head. This entryway has come a long way from the boring beige it started out as. The gray and gold is a great reflection of the backsplash tile I used in my kitchen during the kitchen makeover. So be sure to check out that entire video. Here is another video that you might enjoy. And if you aren't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button because I have lots and lots of fun projects coming your way very soon. Bye!